I wanted to go over another situation for stairs for any beginner or DIYer. So on my last video, that set of stairs was pretty cut and dry. It's pretty easy, but there's some different steps for this set of stairs that I'm gonna have to do. You know, one thing that's different is I have to pour this pad and I'm coming off this pad. You know, another thing that I need to do, I need to take my deck thickness or my decking thickness, I need to take that into consideration on my total height. And since we're doing that, we'll have to take an inch off the bottom of our stringer. I'll show you guys here later. So right here, our total rise is 25 1/4. So let's figure out our rise on our steps real fast. Super simple, but if you don't want to do this, you can get a construction calculator and it'll tell you the same thing. So 25.75 divided by 7. Let's start with 7. It's always good. Good rule of thumb. Can't have 3.6 stairs, so let's divide that. Let's round up to 4 and divide our total rise by 4. It gives us 6.4375. If I hit equal on my calculator, it tells me the fraction. So that's 6 7/16. There it is, guys. That's our rise, 6 7/16. So just like in my last video, guys, I'm gonna use my framing square to mark out my rise and run on for my template piece. So 6 7/16 here, 10 1/2 here. A lot of people mentioned in my last video, you can use nocks. You can put nocks on your square right where your rise and your run would land against the edge of your board, and you can just slide it up and down like this. But in this situation, it's faster for me just to go ahead and mark it. It would take more time for me to set nocks on my square to mark out this small stringer than it would for me just to go ahead and mark these out. Now, if you have a long set of stairs, it would make sense and save you time, I'm sure, then. So I'm just gonna continue 6 7/16 down my little stringer here. Another good rule of thumb is you wanna pick out some 2x12s for your stringers that don't have any knots or that have very little knots. Knots make your stringers weak, and they could crack or break over time where your knot is. Just keep that in mind when you're picking out your stringers. Okay guys, so this cut up here at the top is going to be your plumb cut. Like in my last video, I showed you guys you need to extend this line on down. This is going to be the line you cut, and this is the top of your stringer, you know, also known as your plumb cut up here at the top. So this is my void. I don't need this. That's what side of the line I'll cut on. This is my stringer right here. So let's go down here to the bottom, guys. Like I mentioned before, you use this line, bottom line, to extend your cut line on out. So since I'm setting this stringer on the footer on the bottom and I'm adding an inch to all these and even the top one past this, I need to take an inch off the bottom. That's one step I didn't have to do on my other set of stairs, but in this case I do have to do that. So there you go, guys. I've marked my 1-inch line. That's the line that I'll cut right there. And another thing I'm gonna do different on this, since I'm going to a concrete footer on the bottom, I'm gonna notch out the front of the stringer to sit against the 2x4. I'm gonna tap con a 2x4 down on the bottom of that for all my stringers to sit against. And with them sitting against that, it won't let the front kick out or slide down over time. Okay guys, got it all marked out, got my template piece marked out. Let's cut it out and check to make sure it's gonna fit. So I don't need this, don't need this, don't need that. One thing that I've seen people do that you don't want to do whenever you're cutting your stringer out, they'll run their saw blade past their mark right here, so that these triangles right here will fall out and they don't have to go back and cut these a second time. I don't like doing that because, well, for one, you're cutting into your stringer that you don't need to cut into, and it'll make it a little bit weaker right there. I just like to take a jigsaw or a multi-tool and go back and finish them. And if you don't have one of those, you could always just use a regular handsaw. Let's see how she fits. So, see guys, they're all the same. That's 6 7/16 all the way up to the top of each rise. So, since I'm not adding anything down here like I was before, I did have to take off the thickness of my tread, which was an inch. These cedar deck boards are an inch right here. Pretty much right at an inch. So, if I wouldn't have added my thickness of my decking up here into my total rise, then my top step would be off. You know, I would have took an inch off the bottom, and then there would have been an inch difference, or whatever the thickness of your decking would have been off up here. But cool, watch how we install these guys.